Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Historical Commission meeting. It's Monday, February 3rd, and it's 6 p.m. Everybody includes 3 people. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Can I get a roll call, please?
Carrie A. Ash Clark.
Kristen Cantara Olivera.
Connie Soul. Patty Rigo.
Ruben Amaral.
Larry Dykes.
Joyce Rodericks.
Okay, so we are just missing Richard Mancini. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to take the agenda out of order and move citizen input up next.
Okay, I have a motion to take citizen input out of order and move it up to right now.
Second it.
Okay,
Yes.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, citizen input. I have 2 people signed up for citizen input. Who would like to speak first?
CJ Ferry, 300 Buffington Street, Fall River. I'm calling in regards to the request for a letter of support for current CPC application for the Bank Street Armory roof. Chris Gallagher was notified at the last park board meeting that they're not going to approve any other CPC applications until the stuff that he currently has out is completed. And he has uncompleted projects going back to 2016. When requested on where the money is, there's no response. I don't think pulling this back door move to get something, a letter of support from one commission instead of from the park board who has jurisdiction over the Bank Street Armory, knowing that they've already said we're not going to give you any more approvals for CPC applications. And I think that that needs to be looked at, and I wish Mr. Gallagher was here so that you could either refer that to the park board or just tell Mr. Gallagher that we can't have it here. We'll have to take it back to the park board for their approval. And to top it all off, he has received money from CPC for the Bank Street Armory roof, and nobody knows what's been done with that money either. Hasn't been done with the roof, but the money has been allocated. So we know it's in an account somewhere, but we don't know what it's where.
So the money that was originally given to him for the roof the first time by the CPA, wasn't that an emergency? Was
Right.
that emergency funding to do repairs on the roof?
And I haven't heard anything about it. I don't think the park board's heard anything about any repairs to that roof either.
Because I thought the repairs had been done just to shore everything up so that it wasn't leaking in the building.
That may be very true.
Because
but-
what he's looking for, they're looking to actually replace the roof.
And again,
Yeah.
that's fine, but
Yep.
you shouldn't have taken it to this commission. It should have gone to the park board first, if anything else, because
Yeah.
they have jurisdiction over the Bank Street Armory. And I think that pulling a back door to get it approved kind of just is wrong. I mean, especially if you know that the Bank Street Armory is governed by the park board.
Well, the thing is, CPA, the CPC looks at all the different criteria. So when they look at what needs to be done and they see that the park board didn't sign off on it, I don't think they're going to approve any money
Yeah,
in the first place. The only reason why I think he's coming to us is because it falls under historic preservation. So even beyond the park board, they also need not our approval, because we don't have a say over what happens, but it helps the applications. Like anybody that applies under historic preservation, the CPC recommends that they come before us to get approval from us. Not approval, but to get our input and endorsement to say that yes, we support the project. So even if we gave him a letter, it's not going to have any bearing on what the CPC decides, because when they see that it's the park board that actually has the oversight and the park board turned it down, they're not going to approve it anyway. But no,
Well, you're educating me.
you make a valid,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
I appreciate that. Just off topic a little bit, I didn't know the Cherry and Webb building was classified as a historic building.
It's on
The
the
Cherry and
national.
Webb building on South Main Street.
It's on the National Register.
Ah, I didn't even know
It's
that.
it's actually on the city register. I have to update the Fall River Register because it was put on under the wrong address. And this was something, but we actually voted on it, was it back in December, I think? Just to correct it so that it actually goes on the register, but it's on the National Register.
Yeah, as I said, I had no idea that it was, so
Yeah.
you educated me a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I think
Good evening, Patrick Higgins of Robeson Street. I got a couple of things. First is, like Mr. Ferry said, the Omri is under the jurisdiction of the park board, and I brought you guys, I didn't make enough, I didn't know how many members there were.
We can
But this is
share.
the city ordinance that says that
Pass it
the
down.
Omri is
Share with
under the
Kristen.
jurisdiction of the park board, so like Mr. Ferry, I agree, he's wasting your time by doing a back door. If he doesn't have the approval for the park board, why is he coming over here and wasting your time? You could spend your time on something else. The other thing is, under correspondence 5, my request for the meeting notices, agendas, and minutes. I will compliment Ms. Ayash and Kristen Quintero Olivera. That item is all set. They took care of it within the 10 days as required by the open meeting law. So I think it's on here for informational purposes. But you
It
guys are in good
was,
shape.
yeah.
So I do thank your chairman and your clerk for doing a good job of getting those out within the time.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, girls.
But as far as the, Mr. Gallagher's request, I think he's trying to pull a back door. He's got tons of projects. Nobody knows where the money is. You ask them where the money is. They say, oh, I'll get it to you. You know, the city council meeting, you know, you go to city council, they ask, hey, what's in that? Oh, I'll have to give it, you know, they don't know. So, I mean, the laptop would be really nice.
Can I ask you, so money has been dispersed from the CPC to that department? Do you
Yes.
know what the money was and
It
for
was
what
to fix the roof,
projects?
but I don't know if it was emergency repairs or what, but he's got like 14, 15 projects on the
Yeah,
park board.
yeah.
I'm pretty
At
sure
their last
that,
meeting 2 weeks ago, they said, we're not doing no more. Don't even bring them over here.
yeah.
He had already gone to the CPC asking for information. Is any of you on the CPC? I mean, he's wasting your time. You know, have a little consideration. I mean, you
Yeah.
guys are volunteers, except for Carrie.
I feel like a volunteer, that's
But
what it is.
but by the time you get done, she's making 12 cents an hour.
Yeah, true. You know, from well, at least my point of view, is Bank Street Armory is such an important building to us and to the city. And so it's automatically when someone wants to do something to protect it and preserve it, you know, I take it as they're trying to do something good. And
But he's
so,
also been quoted, he's also been heard, if you go back and watch some park board meetings, they asked him about some money here, and he said something about he backfills his budget when he gets the CPC money to cover the expenses. And that's a definite.
well, that's
no-no.
not what CPC is
So,
for.
that's why I'm bringing it to your attention.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate
Any
it.
other questions?
Do you
Yes,
have any
ma'am.
idea when this authorization was made, what year? Was
3,
the
4
pub-
years, 3 or 4 years,
Just 3 or 4 years ago?
yeah.
I'm astounded that the quote Omri Commission actually gets remuneration for work that they
Yeah.
do.
I don't think they've appointed anybody to the board, but they have the authority to do so.
So it's only been 3 or 4 years?
Well, I don't know how long that ordinance has been in effect, I do not know.
Okay,
That I
that's
do
my
not know.
question.
I don't know, that'd be an Allison.
First I'm
question.
hearing about it.
Yeah. As far as that ordinance, I didn't look it up, I didn't do the research as far as when it was adopted, I'd have to do some
I
more.
will. Thank you.
Okay.
No, but this is definitely, you know, good to, because I'm not sure on the CPC how many people are even aware, but I mean, it's, you know, I'll definitely take it with me to the meeting and bring up this point, because that's the whole thing, is because I'm the CPC representative, so we ask a lot of questions, and we look at the applications to see, you know, if somebody files something, an application on historic preservation,
I mean,
and
the-
they don't
the other
have a
request
letter
tonight,
from.
I mean, the one from the Maritime Museum, that's a private organization, but I'm all in favor of that one.
Right.
They got artifacts over there that are older than me, and I'm pretty old.
I think another issue is it's hard for us to speak about something with the park board when we don't have somebody sitting on the park board, which is a whole nother issue. So that just want that to be said, that it would probably be a little bit easier for.
Hopefully that will be resolved in the next 7 to 10 days, I hope.
Oh, 7 to
Would be
10.
nice.
I like that.
wishful
I know, just
thinking,
because
but
I think it's hard for me, I can understand your point, and completely, even when he was here, I'm all for anything that sounds, but without having that backup and the information and the context, it's hard for
Yeah.
us to, but super, I'm glad that you came to that's noted.
Y'all are doing a good job. It's the first time I've seen you. I think I've seen. You're new. I've seen you.
Connie's not.
So keep up the good work. Pay
Thank
attention to her. She knows what she's doing as far as the open meeting law.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing, but the one thing I will say, just so, to put your mind at ease, you and CJ's mind at ease, is even if we did issue a letter of support saying that, yes, we support this project, because we can still support the project, because, I mean, the Bank Street Armory and anything having to do with that, to me,
I would
is,
love
like
to see
Connie
that
said,
building be
is-
renovated and open.
So would I. And the roof is a major thing for any historic building. If the roof is compromised, you're gonna compromise the
Yeah, look
rest
at
of
the
the
library,
building.
that was a.
Exactly.
I do believe he mentioned,
So-
though, to kind of back up what you said, that the repairs were done just to stop it from leaking, because that's where they
Yeah.
keep storage.
Yeah.
If I remember
They
correctly.
do have stuff
Yeah.
stored in there, because I've actually seen it.
But still, that
But-
doesn't speak to what they
Yeah.
got the money for, what they said they were
Right.
going to do, what was done. I don't, that's a lot.
But just so you're aware, the CPC is very, they like to make sure that they're following up on these projects before they're giving out other money to people. And with Mr. Gallagher, I know there's been issues with that before, because we've had a lot of questions like, hey, wait a minute, before anything goes on, what's going on with these? And so we actually look for updates from the different,
I actually think they changed the
that-
process, right? Didn't they change the process where someone is assigned to each project?
yeah, we all have
Like,
projects that we're assigned to.
Yeah.
So, but even that, like, there's some projects that we still have them come in and talk about it, because some of us will do the one-on-one updates, but somebody like Mr. Gallagher, when there's a bunch of projects that he has under his belt, we ask him to come in and say, okay, give us an update on this and this and this. So even if we did send a letter for him or for anybody on here, it doesn't mean that the CPC is going to support it, because in this case, if it's overseen by the park board, and the park board said no, the CPC is not gonna authorize the money for it, because they've done it before. When there was a question on something, and it had to do with the park board, and somebody else had applied, and they didn't get permission from the park board, it was denied, CPC denied it, so, yeah.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Alrighty. Okay, can I get a motion to move everything back?
Oh, sorry, can I
No,
have
that's
a
okay.
motion to go back to the agenda and continue with general business?
Okay, I have a motion, can I get a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So minutes from December 17th, I do not have the minutes, I will have to bring those to the next meeting. Okay, correspondence. So the first correspondence, which we've kind of discussed a little bit, is Chris Gallagher was requesting a letter of support for a current CPC application for the Bank Street Armory roof. So here, if anyone wants to look at it, this is the application. So the project description is for the upper roof. He wants to remove and replace the flat roof along with structural framing members and copper flashing and coping. Remove and replace access roof hatch. Remove all vegetation protruding from the upper roof level. So they're actually requesting $420,000 from CPC to do this. So if anybody wants to, if you want to pass the application down, and then you can look, it's all one, yeah, it's all one.
I'll let it start.
And it's Stark Architect that's doing it, so.
I do know that there have been trees growing off the roof. It looks like a rooftop garden.
It does.
And so it's time for that to absolutely get repaired.
So I guess the problem comes in with the park board not wanting to support the project.
I understand their concerns.
Oh, I do as well. There's a lot of projects that are still open
Yeah.
that money was given to. There's probably a good couple of $1 million, I think, if you add everything up, that's still out there that hasn't been done.
I mean, if the checks and balances are in place, then his application will get withheld. I mean, I'd say I'm in support of a letter for the building. But again, I'd like to know an end date to the repairs that are ongoing at the moment.
Well, we could ask him to come before us at the next meeting, because I don't think he's scheduled until the end of February to go before the CPC. And even at that, it's not, once all the projects are in, it's not like they're not gonna have deliberations later on. So, I mean, we can still, we have the option of doing that, if that's what we wanna do, which, you know, considering we've gotten
I
some.
mean, we could probably include that verbiage in
questions.
the letter of support, right?
Yeah, we could, right?
What verbiage?
About the concerns that we have, like we're in support of it, but the concerns about the park board not being in support of it, is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, apparently the park board doesn't want to approve any more projects for him
Okay.
until the other stuff is getting done.
So should we
It's
table
really a
his,
shame, though.
should we table his letter?
I think maybe it might be a good
I
idea
don't know, it seems
to
like it's a little bit
table it.
complex, and
Yeah.
and part of,
Until-
I'm really curious as to what the other projects, why they obviously have a reason, or they don't, you know, why the park board is not going through it. And I know it's other projects, but we're being asked to give a letter of support for this project, so in one respect, yes, I would want to give it because it's a historic building, to
Right,
Connie's point,
right.
but if you're going to take it in the larger context of monies being mishandled, then that's a whole, I don't want us giving a letter to something that's not correct, and
Right.
also withholding a letter and then having people say, hey, the historical commission's supposed to protect the Bank Street Armory. So I think we need to maybe give this a little more thought than just now,
I think
is
so.
what I say.
Yeah, and I think that having him come
Let me
here
make a
to.
motion. I make a motion that we table this to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Connie.
Yeah.
I need some coaching
Okay.
sometimes.
So I have a
You know, it's
motion
hard.
I
to
second
table.
I second the motion.
Second, motion and a second. All those in favor of tabling this to the next meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, so we will table it to the next meeting. And I will reach out to Mr. Gallagher and ask him to come to the next meeting. Is that okay?
That's all I was looking for. so.
And that way, too, if you guys want to come to the next meeting, if you have questions, then,
I'll hook those up.
oh boy.
Well, actually, to that point, so I think it's been mentioned that there were other projects. If you, I don't know, it seems like you do your research. If you have any information, I would love that to be shared so that you can share it with us.
I will do my homework.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I mean, I also
I know you do.
have
but,
some,
you know,
yeah, but,
But we can, obviously, since it was a citizen concern.
There's something like 60 or so.
Now I'm curious.
I know.
well, I know one of the major ones, and that's the one that we have oversight for, is the feasibility, the Newark Park conditions study, which we're still waiting. That's been, I think, like at least 2 years. What's that?
No.
I was sorry because he was holding that.
What I'm wondering is, I mean, there was an architect hired to do this drawing of these existing conditions.
Right,
When these projects are done, they should be reviewed by the architect for compliance with the drawings, and that should verify that the project's complete.
right. The architect, first, when they have a project now, because the way that it works on CPC is we are all assigned projects to follow.
Yes.
And there's a form that gets filled out once something is done, so that we can turn that in, and then they release funds to the people. And the architect does have to sign off on the
Okay.
project, so. But Stark Architect is the one apparently now that works on all the city projects. This is the one that they kind of have as the in-house
Oh,
Interesting.
architect. Yeah.
Because they don't bid it out.
I know.
Nope, this is the way that apparently they're doing it. So again, these would be good questions to ask him, especially to support the project, but, okay.
All right.
All right. Now, the next thing on the agenda, so we have, Ken Fiola was requesting letters of support for CBC applications for two projects. So 139 South Main Street, which is the Cherry and Webb Building, and 602 3rd Street, which is the Corky Row Club. Both are on the Fall River Register, and the Cherry and Webb Building is also on the National Register. So we'll take them one at a time. So what he wants to do, and this, I don't have a lot of details, but the roof that they're looking to replace, they want to replace a new rubber roof
It's a flat
on the
roof.
Cherry and Webb Building, yeah. So there's really, I mean, if you want to take a look at it, that's really all that there is. But I mean, it's a building, it's a beautiful building. It's used, there's a lot of people that rent space in the building. And I mean, to anybody that grew up in the city, it's a very iconic
I make a
building
motion
and
that we give him a letter of support for Cherry and Webb Building.
I second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to give a letter of support for the Cherry and Webb Building. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries for that. And the second is for the Corky Row Club at 602 3rd Street. And what they're looking to do is they're looking to, I know it's on here, to do some work, so to the so the organization is looking to repair the exterior facade of the building, as well as reinforce the bar area of the interior with structural repairs. So I'm not really sure, because I don't have the details of what it's gonna look like as far as the interior. But I know that CPC funds don't usually go for the interior unless it's being put back historically accurate, but it will count for the exterior, which has to be historically accurate because it has to be up to Secretary of Interior standards. So money wouldn't be given out for that anyway. So that's what, but that's all they really said, is it's just to do repairs to the exterior facade of the building. And
They've been doing some really great things there. I've been seeing them a lot on social media, and
They
I think
do.
they're trying to like revive the club. So I
they
think this
have
is
been.
great. I
And
think
they're in
this
a
is-
historic neighborhood.
Yeah, and
They are.
I think that we should, I make a motion to create a letter of support for the Corky Row Club.
I second it.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and I will agree with that too. I think there's some areas of the city that tend to really be overlooked, excuse me, as far as their historical significance. And this is one of the areas that really is overlooked, and it's a very significant area, and there's some beautiful buildings in that area. But I think that people tend to always kind of see, this or
I know
the
that
big buildings in the Highlands and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But there's so many parts of the city that they get overlooked.
I know that
and
the
this is-
Preservation
yeah.
Society actually worked with them, and we
Yeah.
had Form Bs created in that area, and we did that in conjunction with Roger Williams, students.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
That is.
they spent several weeks in Fall River, and
This was recently.
about a year or two ago.
Yeah, I don't think it was more. I know it's not more than 2
Mhm.
years, but yeah.
Yep.
So I fully support it, and they do a lot in the community
Mhm.
as well. So okay, so letters will be sent to them. Okay, next on the agenda, so we have two applications. Mike Labossiere from the Department of Community Utilities is requesting they want to acquire the Thomas Borden Farm, which is a historic farm, and also digitization of the historical documents from the Fall River Waterworks. So this is for the farm. And it is under historic preservation and open space, so I will let you take a look at that. There is a historic building on the property as well as open space.
Does it say what they want to do with the farm? Like, because it's just curious that utilities would want the farm. Are they going to do a solar farm, or I'd be kind of curious.
Well, it falls under, it falls under Department of Community Utilities, but they do a lot of other stuff as far as, because one of the projects that they had applied for, but they took it back, is one of the buildings, because what they're trying to do is.
Purpose, it says, of acquiring the farm is to protect at
Oh, it
least
says to protect it. Okay.
11 acres of farmland that is located within 1,000 feet of the shoreline of the North Watapa Pond.
But I think they also want to use it for educational purposes, because some of the buildings that they've put in applications in the past, they're looking to preserve the buildings, and then they want to make an education center.
No, absolutely.
For schools to come in and just people to go in and learn more about that area. And again, that's another area that tends to be overlooked historically, is down that way, because it's not, chock full of these historic buildings, but the property itself is historic, it's significant because of the old farms there, because some of the ties to Native American settlements and things like that. So it's another area that gets overlooked. So that's the first one. So we'll just take them one at a time. See if anybody has any questions.
Where is I don't think I know where Blossom Road is.
The reservation.
Okay. No, yeah, it's,
It's
so
the
it's.
back way,
Oh,
like when
okay.
you go down Blossom Road in Westport. If you go past White's and
Yes.
you go kind of the back way, and then you take a left on Blossom Road and you go all the way down, and it runs
Alright, I was
into the
on the wrong-
reservation.
yes.
It's all down that
Oh,
area.
very nice. I had no idea. That was, so I would be interested in these educational opportunities that they would possibly do.
They do, and they have
That's cool.
walks. You
That's
can
really
do,
cool.
you can do like hikes and stuff.
I love that. So, so that's one, and then the
Yeah, we're gonna do
digitization. I don't think
one
any-
at a
okay.
time. So I know Larry and Joyce are looking at that.
Sure. So as for do we have anything on the digitization, or?
Yep, we do.
Okay.
So what they want to do is they want to store the documents that they have from the first 100 years, which is 1870 to 1969. So they're going to digitize those, because if not, I mean, at
Yeah.
some point they're going to be
Gone forever.
lost too, right? And just like what they did with the Sanborn maps, which are like really vital that people use those, but it's just a big part of the history. So
That's great.
it says in the year 2020, the Fall River Water Department will mark 150 years of being in the business of supplying the city and surrounding communities with clean, safe water. And in 1870, the very first proclamations and decisions were recorded, proclaiming the need for action to create a drinking water supply, a system to supply a quickly growing city. So basically, it's all of the documents.
That's great.
From 1870 till 1869. So this is, if you want to look at that.
Yes.
So do we want to,
Yeah, I want
Do
to
you
make a
wanna go
motion to support, give a letter of support to him regarding the,
What is
Thomas
it?
Thomas
Gordon.
Gordon's farm?
yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so I have a motion to give a letter of support for the Thomas Borden Farm acquisition. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, so they will have a letter for that.
And then I'd like to make a motion that we do a letter of support for the digitization. Is that right?
It's a
It's so
hard
hard.
one
I had
to
to prepare
say.
that
It
for
is.
them. The digitization of historical documents from the Fall River Waterworks.
Okay, then.
Please.
Okay, so I have a motion to support a letter of request, a letter of recommendation for the digitization of the historical documents.
Wow, we're getting good. It's good.
Do we have any questions? Do I have a second? Do we want to discuss?
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. I want to give Larry and
No, go
Joyce a
ahead.
minute. I just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to look it over,
Totally.
ask any questions.
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's
a
the
full
battleship
one.
and the-
Oh, that's fantastic.
Pass it down.
Very good.
Any questions? Joyce, do you have any questions on it? Well, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, so we'll send 2 letters. Moving on. We have a letter of support request from the Maritime Museum for their current CPC application, which is to install an HVAC system, a museum quality HVAC system on the 1st and 2nd floors. The last time around, we did support their application when they were getting a feasibility study done.
I make a motion to give a letter of support.
I second it.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I know personally, this one is really, really important.
She had
because-
mentioned it, I believe, as well when she came in.
She
alluded to
did,
that.
she talked to us about it, but also, I think, she had shown when, the CPC did after the last round and when we had our little yearly thing, so people set up booths in here and they showed their projects, and she was here because they had received a grant, and, she had shown like some of the deterioration of the things that were happening, and I think she might have done that when she came before us, but I know she did it with the CPC, and it's sad to think that some of these things will just be gone, and it's strictly because, you know, you can't control the climate,
Yeah.
so to me, that's so important. Okay, next on the agenda, Lafayette Durfee House is requesting a letter of support, and this one is for Community Development Agency funding. They're applying for funds to build an exhibit and classroom area at the house. So as you know, we have always supported their preservation efforts at the house, and I think that that's probably one of the greatest gems, little gems that we have in the city. They do so much.
Absolutely.
They do so much education, so many great events that they have at the house, and I think just adding an exhibit and a classroom area just would take it up to a
think
whole
that's
new
great.
level, and I'm really glad that they're doing that. And it's nice to see that they're looking for other ways to fund.
I think that's a great example of a place that in the last couple of years has really made consistent improvements and
absolutely.
consistent additions to programming, which is what you want to see, you know, to a place when you give money that you want to see that money is being used.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I fully support, I make a motion to submit a letter of support for CDA funding for Lafayette
Okay,
Durfee.
great. So I have a motion to support. Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda, so Patrick Higgins, which we heard from him on this already, so he had requested the meeting agendas and minutes, and he was satisfied with what we sent, so.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you for being diligent and keeping everybody honest.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, notice of intent to demolish structure. Pilgrim Mill, 847 Pleasant Street, still standing.
Still standing.
Still standing. We're gonna keep it on here until it's not anymore. So I drive by it all the time, and to me, I would hate to see that come down, because so many things in the Flint, especially in that area, have come down, and it's just kind of all built up, and so you have that big
Well, I
plaza.
would ask the chair, this period of time has exceeded the 6-month demolition
Yeah.
period. So where do we stand with that? Do we have to review this again and ask the owners of the building to come forward with a plan?
Nope. There's nothing that we need to do or can do. So their 6-month delay is up. The only way that we would have any other say in this, well, if they reach out to us and they wanted any kind of advice, but if the building is sold, the new owner would have to come before us if they wanted to demolish. But as long as it stays the original owner that submitted the demolition delay, then
I ask that question because it begs the question of this building deteriorating from 2017 to the present without our knowledge. For example, that happened with the Borden School, where it had been sold and there was a new owner and it was deteriorating. And then when we finally got information as to whether or not it could sustain preservation, we weren't in a position to do anything about it.
well, they actually use this building. There's companies in there. But either way, I mean, we really don't have oversight over these buildings, unfortunately. And he did apply for a demolition permit. Their
They're
intent
privately
was,
owned.
yeah, their intent was to demolish. Since it's a private property, they really, sadly, can do whatever it is that they want to do. I mean, we can offer suggestions.
I mean, if there
yeah.
are things that we're concerned about, if you drive by it and you have concern for any safety, then the building inspector can be notified to go out there and look at it
I
and,
mean,
address any concerns.
If there are arrears on taxes
looks
in the
like
eminent
it's in-
domain, but that's like, you know, a
Yeah,
whole
but I
different.
mean, it
But
looks,
if
it
it's
still
being
looks like it's in good
used
shape.
with
It is.
tenants
Yeah.
and
Yeah, hopefully he had second thoughts and saw the
Perhaps.
I
revitalization
hope
of that
so.
area and decided not to.
maybe.
Because it's, I mean,
It's expensive
I
to
grew up in
demolish.
that area, so I
Exactly.
saw
Me too.
things coming down, like,
Yeah.
I still, so it's nice to just at least still see that there.
Maybe Ruben's right, maybe he had a change of heart and, he's actually not even thinking about doing this anymore, but it keeps it on our radar.
Yeah. Well, 3 mills around there just got renovated,
Exactly.
so.
Yep. But I will say I do miss the little dollar bookstore that used to be there.
Ah,
'Cause I used to go
I
in there and
know.
spend so much money.
I know, Christmas
I
was
was in
hard.
there forever.
Christmas was hard in the last 2 years.
I used to get so
Sorry
much
again,
stuff.
please. All right, so, and then our Morgan
Okay.
Street
So, yep,
still stands.
it is still standing. The demolition delay obviously is up, but as of now, still there. I have no update on that. Okay, 1 Weaver Street, historic smokestack. So smokestack is still standing. Obviously, they've been working on the property and they're doing, they're clearing the area. There is a cover all around and there's signs up on the fence saying asbestos removal and so that's where they're at, but it doesn't look like
The Preservation Society's in conversation with them regarding the smokestack.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and one of the things at the smokestack, one of the reasons they want the smokestack to come down is not, it is a 6-vehicle parking area. So, but,
So you're gonna take a smokestack down for 6 cars?
that, we're talking.
Good.
Yep.
I'm glad.
So, but anyways,
It's
they,
on-
they can take it down,
They can.
and it would be a shame if they did, and, but
I just think
the architect is, potentially looking at options.
I just think especially for what they're trying to do and the whole idea of they're trying to help people and, you know, you have something that was completely damaged or so it seemed
They
like
do
completely
have-
destroyed and you save a
They
part of it and you
also-
build something new around it. And I mean, to me,
They also
that
have
just-
concerns about structural damage from the fire,
Yeah.
and so potentially a structural engineer is gonna be looking at it. So
Yeah.
stay tuned.
Okay, good.
They'd have a structural engineer ready for the building,
Yeah,
just be a little bit more for them to have them look at the smokestack.
right.
If they really wanted it, but
If they really
they're
want it,
not
yeah.
vested in it,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because because the Preservation Society is talking to them, I think it's bringing up the,
But just the symbol of it, the symbolism of it.
I
just
know, but this
pushes
is a
that.
business.
I know, I understand
So.
that, but a business still, I mean, the clientele that you're appealing to is such a good, like, way to make that point of, you know, something beautiful can still come from something that was so tragic.
Well, Tony Diaz brought up a good point last time. They could make money off the smokestack with
Well,
antennas.
That's the other thing too, you've got
That's
the
been
the
mentioned. Yeah.
opportunity
As
to
well.
rent
I think this,
space.
never mind.
Well, good for the
We could keep
Preservation
going, but-
Society at
Yeah.
least for.
No, there's a lot of stuff going on. Anyways, next.
Okay. Sagamore Milk, number 148th Street. So obviously, we know we had a little informal conversation with him and some of the neighbors the last time, and I don't know, I know myself, I kind of got the idea that there were two very different views of what was going on with that property. I think the neighbors kind of saw one thing, and he said something.
Yeah, I was present
Very
last
different.
week,
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, and I felt the same way. And I
Yeah.
would ask the chair to ask Mr. Sylvia to give us that information, because he presented $600,000 as a demolition cost,
Sorry.
which in many estimates seem to be very unrealistic. So I would ask the chair to invite Mr. Sylvia back to give us that information. Give us that information that he said exceeded $3 million. We didn't see it. We got this estimate that it was going to, the cost effectiveness would be in his favor if it was demolished. So I didn't see any of that. I didn't get the facts.
I think the concern here too is like, first of all, like the cost, none of that is really gonna, we're not in a position to challenge that. He's filed for demo, he has a 6-month, demolition, approval. My concern is that, is he gonna be cleaning this land once he demos it? Is it gonna be done appropriately? That's gonna be the building inspector's, job to make sure that any asbestos is being taken care of appropriately, that this is being done appropriately, once it is demoed. Because he said it would be $600,000 to take down the building, but that did not include any brownfield clearing or cleaning.
Yep.
Or asbestos
Asbestos.
cleaning. So my concern is that buildings are coming down, which we had this issue with a building that came down, and the asbestos was
Twice.
flying all over the
Twice,
place.
because
Wasn't
In
ta-
King Philip,
Not just King Philip, it was also
Another-
on the school on Hicks Street.
And there was a Central Street property that got demoed.
That's right, yeah.
And there was asbestos flying all over the place, just like hanging off. And so someone needs to be responsible for that, and that's the building inspector's job, to make sure that if someone's knocking down a building, or making sure that, it's being done appropriately. It's not, we don't do that.
Right.
Well, on the other hand, his presentation did not convince me that he had looked into preservation.
Oh,
Period.
he definitely
He didn't.
didn't.
And he did not.
Hands down. Actually,
didn't.
his presentation told me that he bought this a year ago,
With
did
the-
nothing
yes.
to it with the intent
Correct.
to
Of
demolish it.
Correct.
Hands down.
Because even when he said, that it wouldn't be a good idea to put, like, he originally wanted to put apartments and stuff there, but it's not a place where apartments would go, and I'm sorry, but you've got apartments around the corner, and you've got apartments, elderly apartments that are going up even closer than
And
that.
currently,
So-
Star is in a residential area.
Yeah.
With homes all around it. So
Right.
to use Star as the excuse for not developing it just didn't fly.
No, because you've got the place that's gonna be putting up the elderly apartment complex, that's gonna basically be going kitty corner across the street from Star, and the marijuana facility is right there at the end of the street, and they know this, and they're still putting it there. So to say it's not feasible, and we see there's developers that come into the community, and they are revamping these mills, and they're getting all kinds of funds from the state. Some get CPA funds, but mostly, like, you're getting state tax credits, and I'm sorry, but 30% tax credits goes a long way.
And none of that was researched by him. None of it was researched at all.
No, not from what he showed.
No effort was made to get
No.
this information. He just went ahead.
Well, he worked with an
the
architect.
intent.
Who was the architect? I can't
Somebody
recall.
from, I think he said Pawtucket or somewhere, somebody in Rhode Island.
So
I'd never
he
heard.
hasn't looked into that, and I don't think he's interested in looking into that.
No. The problem is, we.
And I believe that his neighbors, his mill owner neighbors, were in support of the demo because they're tired of the way it looks
Yeah.
and also stuff
Fire.
flying off and
they're
it being
afraid, yeah.
abandoned.
Yeah, I heard that.
Mhm.
But, and that's where I heard two different stories, because one was saying, well, this was left open, and we see homeless people over there, and he's like, oh, no, we have three people,
He has a watchman, he said.
Yeah, but he says he has three people that rent, like, three clients that rent that building, tenants, thank you. I took a drive by there the other day, and to me, that building looked completely abandoned. I don't know, there was a couple of, like, there was a light on in a stairwell, but to look from the outside of that building, it really.
And that's what the
just-
neighbors had said as well, that they felt like it
So,
was vacant.
I don't know.
And not being taken care of.
Right.
And
But-
he did say, though, that the sprinkler system was operational, which I think alleviated some of their concern.
Yeah. The sad part about all of this, and the frustrating part, is we honestly don't have any oversight other than currently a 6-month demolition delay. There's nothing that says they have to come before us, and once their 6-month delay is up, they have every right to tear down these buildings, and that's the unfortunate thing, and I just wish there was some way that we could get people in the city to understand why that's not a good thing.
Is that true throughout the state? Is that a general kind
It's
of?
Fall River's ordinance.
No, every
Just Fall River
city
only?
has a different,
Yeah.
I'll try to find that out, Madam Chairman, at the meeting this week.
yes.
The
that- yeah.
seminar is on Wednesday, because if we're out of step with the rest of preservation,
We have requested an extension of the demolition delay. We actually have a proposal in front of the ordinance committee now to extend it to 12 months for city
For city
properties, to lead by example, for the city to lead by example. I mean, my concern is when someone has a building and they're not maintaining it, or there's a yard that looks like it's filled with junk, who's enforcing to make sure that, the area is clean and safe, or they're building, the roof isn't flying off and hitting another building, and, that's more of a concern, that properties are being allowed to just sit and deteriorate rather than enforcing, or enforcing owners to take responsibility for their buildings. I mean, would you let your roof just fly off your house and not do anything about it? You know, so
There's
this is.
environmental police, there's a building,
Well, there's
it's
the
a city
building
thing, yeah.
inspector, it would be on the building inspector, but
And that's
if the building inspector doesn't know, like, unless somebody calls the building inspector and says, hey, this is going on, then it may not necessarily be on their radar, so, but once somebody calls, then yeah, they have to do something about it. Unfortunately, sometimes by
Understandable,
the
though, at
time
the same
that
time-
happens, it's too late.
At the
And
same time, I see an awful lot of like, listen, I don't know much about what goes on in different departments, but there's all these city trucks I see idling around. I see them looping around. I mean, you know, I think I read in the paper that Mayor Coogan's interested in starting to identify vacant properties.
Yes, I read that,
So that seems like it's a city initiative. I definitely think we should put our support in, whether it be like a letter, I don't know what that might do, be on the public record, just that we support looking at vacant properties and helping the owners to learn how they can actually utilize these buildings and because obviously those are big buildings to be vacant. It's not just like one house on a
Right.
corner. It can change the whole outlook of a neighborhood. It can change how people feel about the neighborhood. So it really, those are major eyesores.
Well, I can add that to the conversation.
That you,
that
yes,
we're-
I haven't answered your email, but that,
Well, I'm meeting with them tomorrow.
oh, all
So,
right.
yeah.
So, yeah, and I think with the 12 months, with an addition to the demolition delay, that gives us more time to do these things that we've talked about with like, you know, the court of public opinion by putting stuff out
Right.
online and educating people. But 6 months is not a long time to educate people once you've gotten the letter, and then it's 30 days. So 12 months will let us be a little bit more strategic about, like, we can't save everything, but we can save certain things, especially when it affects a whole neighborhood. So we have to like kind of be more,
Right, but right now, the ordinance is just for city-owned
Yep.
properties.
yes, oh, I know.
To extend it
Yeah,
for city
Right.
properties.
extending the demolition to 1 year, that is a requirement for a city ordinance, is that correct?
It has to be approved by the ordinance committee. And
And
so
then
the
city
Preservation
council.
Society put that forward
Okay.
to them in the previous administration, but with the chaos that was
So you're gonna
occurring.
reintroduce it?
It's before them, they just haven't acted on it.
we did give them a letter of support because they had come to us.
Sorry.
And we did give them the letter of support saying that we supported that, so. It was two things. It was that and something else. But I think, there definitely needs to be more of a conversation about how we have more of a place at the table so that things like this, you know, with,
It's almost like you
with
need
the real
like a-
estate committee, with,
Yeah.
you know,
But you know, like a building inspector's office can't do everything, right? But we as citizens, we should be eyes and ears as well, and we should have a place that we can report it and it doesn't fall on deaf ears.
Right.
So that it at least can be looked at. If we have an area that we think,
It's a great idea.
you know, looks like it needs some attention, we can bring it to someone's attention. And I think
Right.
that's something that I think is being suggested.
but I think part of it good. But part of it too is even with the planning board and, you know, the ZBA and boards like that, like even with the planning board especially, they have
He
to
went
go
before the
before,
planning
well, that's
board.
what I'm saying. They have to go before the planning board, and you have a planning board that doesn't follow what the city's recommendations are. You have a master plan for the city that focuses on historic preservation, and you've got these other studies that were paid for by city and state funds, that there's at least 3 that I have copies of, that all take historic preservation into account and make it a big focus, and you have a planning board that just throws that right out the window, and we have no say.
So when he
with
was
the
here at
planning
the
board.
meeting last week, he said that the planning board approved his plan with open arms.
Right.
That's his quote.
They also, yeah, and they also approved the Highland, the thing that went up on Highland Avenue there in the old St. Vincent's farm,
Oh.
where there were, you know, pretty much guaranteed Native
Well, going back to
American
the
architects
demolition,
and
I don't wanna take
artifacts
all
that they
all
just
night on this,
ignored.
because my thinking is that the database that we have in the planning office should be connected to our list of historic buildings. These things should be interacting.
It's on the city
Is that
website.
possible, that we can connect planning with historic preservation?
How,
On a database, the database that we have listing all of the historic buildings, cannot that be flagged in either the planning office or the assessor's office?
yeah, but
that this
anybody
is-
has access to that. Everybody has access to that.
Well, I'm saying when that project comes before the planning office and they just recommend, they need to connect to the fact that this is a historic building.
So you're
Right.
talking about the planning board?
The planning board.
board.
Right, that's what I'm saying, why we need more of a connection with the planning board in the
And I'm
first place.
suggesting that it happens at the database level, so that properties coming before them are flagged as historic properties.
I don't know how that would happen, though.
Well, it
Well,
happens
I-
because IT people write programs. They write programs and they tag information like that.
Maybe it's something,
I think
You-
our secretary's not believing it.
Oh, I know the program, I know pretty much what they're working on.
Am I far away on this, or is
No,
this a
you're
realistic suggestion?
I know what I
So
know
am I.
your logic, I just don't know how it would,
it's gonna take someone from the planning board to actually do the work and go through it, read, and see what's on the register in order for them to decline.
well, that's what the building department does
Yeah.
now, although the building department has
Whatever
them come
department it
check.
takes.
All of
Whatever
them really
department it
need, all of
takes
them that could
to connect
potentially be
us
involved.
to the
You know,
right
I
people.
have to interject here, because I'm gonna say this. If I'm sitting on the planning board, and a mill comes before me, a
Okay.
mill that's been standing for over 100 years.
Okay.
Am I not gonna realize that that's a historic
Yeah, it doesn't
mill?
take
No, you're not
brains
gonna
to-
realize it. Apparently, nobody does
No,
realize it.
No,
They
no, it's not
realize
that
it.
they
I
don't
mean-
realize it, they just don't care.
That's what I'm saying. Anything over 50 years old should automatically bring up a red flag, if you care enough to. But if you don't, and you
know.
just sign off on whatever.
You can
right.
integrate a database all you want, but it's still not gonna make them
Yeah.
care.
I'm not
Someone has an
I'm
agenda.
not gonna bank on the fact that somebody
They
will
need to do
care
their job.
if they see something that's over 50 years old. I don't bank on that. I think a red flag has to come up, and it has to follow that property right through the process in Government Center. I'm not banking on anybody understanding that or seeing it or taking action.
Well, you need someone to enforce.
It's
So
just
that's
a
a whole
flag.
other-
It's just a flag on the property that's going to follow it through the process in Government Center.
Well, you're talking about a program, though. I mean, we already have somewhat of a flag. I mean, we have a database list of all the historic properties in the city. So, other than that, I mean,
It's not difficult to go on there and look it up. I
it's
do
all,
it
it's by
every
address, by
day.
But it's not
neighborhood.
being done.
I know, but we can't, but that's
Again,
the
because it's
thing.
not enforced, who's gonna enforce it? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we're beating a dead horse here is what we're doing.
You can
because-
have a program that flags it.
Yeah,
But it doesn't make a difference if nobody's gonna act on the flag anyway.
Well, the flag should automatically stop, like something's gotta be in there where it stops the process of going further on and producing a permit or whatever at that point. I wrote it down.
That sounds a
I might
lot
have to
more
beg, borrow, and
reasonable.
steal to even, but
That
I'll
does
definitely-
that sounds reasonable, that's just a piece of code or something that you put in.
Right, and
I
it
think
is a
that
very,
another
it's so
system
important.
is
We
what
have
we
this
need.
problem in my department as well. Like, there's a disconnect, and as many times as we say to one another, lots of times it's just human error. More so, I think, and I hope, and I want to believe that it's not just not caring. I think it's a combination of things.
That might be an overstatement, and I just also think too, for a long time, there's been a lot of shenanigans going on, and I don't think some people haven't been held accountable for certain things, and so I think the word for 2020 and beyond for Fall River is accountability. People, like, you have a job, Just like I have a job and y'all have jobs, and we're held accountable for our jobs, and the city of Fall River should be absolutely no different. So the best we can do is continue to have these conversations, which are televised and taped, and continue to have those. And we also have the power to write op-eds to the newspaper if we want to. There's still the power of the media. There's social media. There's a million different ways that we can do that, rather than continue to discuss it ad nauseum at these meetings, because it's just us talking to. We need to do something different. We're preaching to the choir. I'm sure every
know.
single person in this room agrees with us. Who we need to talk to is get in front of the people who make the decisions and who hold people accountable. So,
Question.
Well,
If
Madam
I go
Vice
to them and
President,
I speak to
will-
them, is it 50, because there's so many random properties, not just the 47 that
Yeah.
are,
Oh, no, that's
extra.
just the district, though.
Right.
So that's the local historic district.
Right, but then there's so many properties that you would never imagine
Right.
were a historic building, per se, if you were up there and you're busy
On
and
the
you're doing your
list,
thing.
yeah.
Now, so, I don't know how, I guess they know when all of the buildings were built, because that is in the computer in the assessor's office. So it'd be anything over 50 years?
Is considered
Is
historic.
considered-
However,
It doesn't mean it's on.
it's on, it's
doesn't.
not on the list.
Right, and that's,
So that's
well,
why
that'll
the
flag for us
list should
too,
be, yeah.
so that we can get them on the
How long
register.
does it take to look something up on that list?
that
you
list
have-
is horrible.
Well, because
to be
that
honest
was the
with
way
you.
that it was set up, because it's not
No.
just that it's small, it's the way that it was set up, like, there's things at the bottom that should be in the
No,
list and
it's
it's
done by
not, so-
neighborhood, by historic neighborhoods.
But the ledger
It's
is
done
like
by streets.
complicated. It makes me
In the
crazy.
neighborhood,
I'm
yeah.
like, I don't know for sure. I'm always doubting
Everything's
myself.
And then at the end, there's this bunch of random stuff. If you look at it, all the streets are alphabetical. The neighborhoods are grouped, like,
That's
by
what I mean.
color, but they're not grouped together. It's
Patrick,
just
you
the
just
colors are highlighted
I'm
wherever
awake.
they are, but it's all alphabetical. Okay.
Stop it, TJ.
All right. Anyway, so Sagamore Mill, there's, at this point, there's really nothing else we can do. I mean, we can try and reach out to him again. I just don't see where that's gonna do much good, if anybody.
Did he share the plans last week for the
Oh.
industrial park? I'm
He
just curious what
showed-
it looks like, because an industrial park
They
sounds
weren't
kind
on-
of interesting for
Yeah.
that area.
It was a building.
Okay.
So I don't
That's
know
not
what
industrial.
an
It's an
industrial park is.
aerospace,
It's a building.
Do you have a dollar amount on the project?
His project? I thought he said 12 million.
Ooh.
I think that, is that what he said, Joyce? Was it 12 million?
On the 5th?
What do you, the last meeting, did he say it was 12 million that it was gonna
way
cost
higher than that,
to?
I think. I think he said something like 22. He
Oh,
said
yeah?
a tremendous, I don't know why I really
Was
feel
it?
strongly about that.
I
Could be wrong.
thought 22 was what it was gonna cost to rehab, and
Okay.
12 million was
Yep.
what it was gonna
That's
cost to build a new.
I didn't
Money.
catch
I
this.
think, but I don't
think you're
know.
right.
Amazing.
Because I mean, unless I see details about what and why,
They're just numbers.
it doesn't work. Because even with CPA applications, until I see your details and where you're getting those numbers from, you can throw out any numbers you want to me, and it doesn't mean I'm gonna believe you. So unless you have figures to back it up, and that's kind of how I felt about
All
what
right,
you
all
said.
right,
So,
yeah.
all right, anyway. So moving on, old business, Al Lima, he's not here. I didn't ask him to come back this week just because we brought the poor guy down here and we had to bump him yet again. So I think we can wait a little bit because it's not something that's pressing. I think we have more things that we really, so we're just, if I can get a motion to table this till maybe like.
I'll make a
when-
motion to table this.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Historical Commission, District Commission merger. I have no update on that yet, but I do have a meeting tomorrow with Mayor Coogan, and that's one of the things that I'm gonna bring up. And then after I meet with Mayor Coogan, I'm going to make an appointment to meet with Alan Rumsey, the city attorney, and see, Corporation Counsel, and see if we can get that process going, because I have no idea what Judge Macy did with any of the information that I had given him in the past, so we're just gonna have to start fresh, and hopefully they move it forward sooner rather than later, because we've been waiting like a year now, so. PowerPoint presentation for neighborhood groups, I haven't scheduled anything with any neighborhood groups as of yet, because I just
You know what I was thinking might be a good idea? When we were talking
Not
about
really.
Corky Row earlier, Corky Row Club, it might be fun to do one there. See if we can invite the community there. So just kind of like thinking about some historic sites, like historic places where we could do things of that nature, but I know we've got some other things, more organizational
Yeah.
things, but as the weather gets warmer or
Yeah,
whatever.
definitely. Yeah, because winter's not summer and winter are kind of the worst times to do it.
We
But
should
like
probably take a look
spring
at,
last
you know,
year
other
we
events
did-
that we can maybe like piggyback on to,
Yeah.
you know, so keep an eye out for that.
Okay.
But thank you.
Meeting dates for 2020, they were all accepted. The dates that we had voted on in the
Mhm.
December meeting were all accepted. And we do have that room, and it is at 6 o'clock from now on. So the Historical Commission will meet permanently at 6 o'clock unless otherwise noted. And then community outreach, that would be Patty. I don't know if you want to just move that to,
Yeah, I just haven't had a chance
Yeah.
to start posting yet, but
Okay. Then we'll,
I might do it.
yeah, then we'll talk about it next month. That's,
Okay.
you know, we have time. Okay, moving on, new business. So tomorrow, is it, no, Wednesday, Joyce is going to be attending the workshop. So Chris Skelly from Mass Historical Commission.
Yeah, it's at the Dartmouth
Yes.
Public Library.
Yep. And it's on administrating the demolition delay bylaws and ordinances. So hopefully Joyce comes back with some good information to
Yep,
share.
Glad to do it.
My money is on
So,
Joyce
yeah.
for coming back with some information.
Oh,
There's no
absolutely.
doubt about that.
Absolutely. She's gonna, I know she'll have good questions, so. So, open discussion, I don't know if anybody has anything, so I will be meeting with Mayor Coogan tomorrow, so if you haven't had a chance to email me with any of your, questions, thoughts, or whatever, just please do that as soon as possible, because in the morning, I'm gonna put together my list, and, Jason and I are meeting him
I was
tomorrow.
gonna say, when we were talking about the planning board, that might be something that you can discuss with Mr. Coogan.
Yep,
And how the
Yeah.
processes are working with other boards and not communicating.
I think across the board,
Yeah, across
boards
the
working
board.
together, yeah, all the
Across the
boards.
board, yeah.
I
Absolutely.
mean,
that was, I know a couple of people had actually brought that up, sent me that, so that's definitely on
I
there.
think some of that comes from within, like, I know that there was a special assistant or special projects person, and, you know, I think people want more, transparency with the government. They want to know what people are doing. And so it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for Fall River, the government, to kind of like put out something on their social media about what different groups do. It's just kind of like restoring people's faith in what has taken, you know, we've been on a
Right.
ride, so.
Well, I think knowing what happened in the past, like, couple of years, I think that's probably something that will
I
get
think-
done.
Yeah.
I hope so. So, anything else? Okay, so our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, February 18th at 6 PM in the hearing room. I will not be able to make that meeting, so either Connie will have to run it, or we
I
can-
actually can't make that meeting.
You can't make that one
No,
either?
I'm actually looking at it right now.
Okay.
What, was it always the 18th?
It was always the 18th, yeah, the third Tuesday. Do we want to schedule it for a different day?
From the other one of you are going to be here, I prefer that, just because you guys have a lot of information.
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable enough running it. I'll
Okay.
just say that.
Well, we can schedule a different day if you want.
I feel it.
Like, I can pretty much do any day but that one day.
Sit next to me next time, I'm going to hurt you.
Plus, it's only 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So
Right.
A 3-week.
Well, that's true.
Following Tuesday,
Can't get the room with me.
which is the 25th. No, 24th, isn't it?
Nope, so,
24th.
oh, the following Tuesday on the 25th, I actually have a CPC meeting.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's Monday,
Monday, the 24th.
Monday the 24th,
Wednesday, the 26th?
Wednesday the 26th.
I can't do the 26th.
Okay.
How about Monday the 24th?
Can't do the 24th.
You can't do the 24th, okay.
Well, it doesn't matter, schedule it to a 24th, because if I'm just one, maybe Rick will be back.
Rick's not back until March.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's not.
Yeah.
He's not back till March.
Yep.
So let's move it till March. Is something pressing?
Do you
The
want
only
it-
thing we tabled was Al
Al.
and
Chris Gallagher.
Chris Gallagher.
And Chris Gallagher has to go the end of February, you
Yeah.
said, so we do need to meet before then.
So,
Well, that's assuming Chris Gallagher is gonna show up to do it as well. I mean,
Yeah.
he may just decide he's not
Not gonna
going
do it
to
at all.
because he
No.
knows the park board is denying it, so he may not show up
Okay.
anyway. I mean,
it needs to be done though.
what?
It needs.
Oh, I know, but if the park board's not gonna approve it, then what are you gonna do? It's not our decision to make, and CBC won't give him money if it's not.
No, I get it.
Yeah. So I don't know, I mean, do you want to just have the meeting
On the 24th.
in, on the
Is that what
20,
you're
well, we
saying?
could do on the 24th, or we could just move it to March,
I'm fine on that.
unless something
I'm fine
comes
with
up.
March.
That's probably a good idea.
Okay.
Just St.
Then our
Patrick's Day.
okay, so our next meeting, then,
St. Patrick's Day.
assuming
It is?
Yeah,
nothing
it's
else.
Tuesday the 17th, isn't it?
Oh, that's bad.
Oh, that's not good.
Why?
Really? Come on. It's St.
All
It's
right,
the
well, we
third?
can change that, we can always do the 10th, we can do the week before.
you
Maybe
sure
the
it's
week
the-
before
It is,
because
it's the 17th.
It is.
Oh,
That'd be
yeah,
good,
since
'cause it'll
we're
be a week
skipping-
earlier.
I think
Yeah.
maybe a week before would be
Yeah,
better.
if we're skipping February, then if we want to just move it to March 10th,
Yeah.
okay. Would
That's-
you be
is that-
able to check that date?
Sure. Is that a-
Tuesday, March 10th. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I make a
so
motion to
Our
adjourn.
next, so our next scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, March 10th at 6 PM. It is 7:12. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make
I'll
a
make a
motion.
motion.
Oh, I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone,
Thank
and
you.
good night. Thank you for coming.